Amazon got hit with some of that too. And it's like all of a sudden, people are realizing, and I think it's part of a new generation coming up and saying, we we don't need to work here if you're not going to take care of us, or
Right.
do things right. And so it's interesting to kind of watch these newer companies kind of face what the established companies in America for 100 years faced with, the fact that, hey, I love to work here, but you got to make it it's a two-way street of I'm going to give you my 100%, but I need something in return other than just a paycheck. So
Yeah, there's 5 generations working together right now. Welcome to the Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help home service pros cut through the noise, sharpen their business tools, and reclaim the profit, freedom, and impact they've been missing. I'm your host, Richard Walsh, Profit Freedom Coach, and I'm here to help you stop grinding and start growing. Let's sharpen the spear. And we are back on another STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Mike Swenson with us today. And Mike, no one knows Mike better than Mike. So, Mike, bring us up to speed. Give us that backstory, and then I want to get into the conversation.
you got it. Well, I'm a native Kansan, I've never lived anywhere else but the state of Kansas. So start there. But had a great grew up in the capital city in Topeka, Kansas. Went to Kansas University of Kansas in Lawrence. Always wanted to be in broadcasting. Since I was in the 8th grade, I wrote a career paper about getting into broadcast sports at the time. But I did that. I went to KU J school and came out and did 6 years in radio and television, both as in front of the camera and behind the camera. And actually, I enjoyed behind the camera better. I directed the weeknight news at this station in Topeka, NBC affiliate, for a couple of years, and that was a blast. I had a ball doing that. My family's always been involved in politics in Kansas, and so I had one of those things. I thought I was going to be a broadcaster the rest of my life. That's why I love doing podcasts now. I get back to my I get to do it again. But I had a great opportunity to go to work for a governor in Kansas. His name was John Carlin. This was in the early 1980s. And ended up working for him as assistant press secretary, helped him with his reelection campaign in 1982, and then served as his press secretary in the second term. I've always called that my graduate school because when I walked down the hill at KU, I didn't think about going back to school, but I did go back to school, and I learned a lot in those 11 years in broadcasting and as press secretary. That it basically built the foundation for what I did, which was eventually get into public relations. Started a PR firm alongside an ad agency in 1987, and 32 years later, I retired. So there's the longer story is the first part. But our PR firm started out as a local and regional business. We had some clients with the ad agency, but the guy who founded our ad agency said to me, we need he's an classic entrepreneur, and he said to me, look, we need a PR firm. We don't have one, but here's 2 things you got to do. You got to make money. And I want you to go get at least half your business on your own, because he wanted to see if he could build a business. And we did that. At the end of the first year, we'd made a profit, and we had more than half our business on our own, and we were off to the races. Over the course of 30 years, everything got bigger. The ad agency, when I walked in the door at Barclay and Evergreen in 1987, there was 45 people in the whole company. And when I retired, and today they've now acquired a couple more, there's over 900 people in that agency. Mm-hmm. And but 2 of the things we focused on, besides just doing classic PR, was cause marketing, where we partnered our corporate clients with nonprofits to do some good, and we did a lot of that. We were one of the pioneers in that. So that put us on a national stage, which was great. And then the other one is what I really am passionate about today. I always have been, and that's crisis communications, because we discovered early on with our clients that many of them were not really ready for when something bad happened. And we kept telling them, something bad's going to happen to you. You can't get through life without having to deal with a crisis or some type of downfall. And are you ready to deal with it? And so we created with a client of ours in the 1990s, which was the client was a fast food chain. They were about 600 restaurants in about 15 states, but they were growing fast. And their head of PR approached me, and she said, "I'm really worried. I'm afraid we're not ready." And what she and I both talked about is it only took one teenager at one drive-in to cause a nationwide crisis just because they did something stupid or unknowingly or knowingly. But it became a problem that got attention. And so we sat in a room. Her team came up to Kansas City, and we sat in a room for about 3 days and hammered out a process that today is called Crisis Track. And we'll talk about all that later in detail. But that's what I'm passionate about now. I did retire a couple of years ago from I had passed the baton on at the PR firm to a woman who'd been with me for 20 years, and she's done a fantastic job, as I knew she would. And but I started consulting and doing stuff, and then this has been my passion: is how do I get this Crisis Track thing into people's hands, especially for small businesses, Richard, because as you know, small businesses can't necessarily hire a firm to take care of things. So that's all my work stuff. Personal life. My wife and I have 4 kids and 8 grandkids, and we're actually out in California right now. We live in Kansas City, but we're in California for about a month, and seeing some of our grandkids out here, and just having a ball. I love golf, but 2 days a week is enough for me. I never wanted to play every day, so I play 2 days a week when I'm home, and we like to travel and read and binge TV shows occasionally and do stuff like that. So and now I'm enjoying the fact that I get to talk to people like you and see what else is going on in your world as well as mine.
Yeah, that's awesome, Mike. Yeah, it's I love the whole story. I love the crisis stuff, addressing that kind of stuff. And you're right. There's, we all got evacuation plans on the building, right? On the rooms we know to go. Supposedly, I don't think you can really read those, but it's like just follow the red exit sign. I'm looking at one right now, and I just don't know how to get out of the building. Important, but I know exactly what you're saying without going into the detail on a fast food thing. One event, and a lot of companies have been taken down by one event. It's a pretty incredible thing. Let me ask you this: how long you've been doing the crisis thing? How many years now?
Well, we built this process in early 1990s. So,
Okay.
I just started
Okay.
the PR firm in 87. So basically for nearly the entire lifetime of the PR firm. And what I had and always had in my contracts with Barclay was whenever I left, I could take Crisis Track, the process, and the name with me. They still use it as well.
Nice.
But that I could take it with me and do what I'm doing now, which is getting it out there into the world.
Love it.
But so a long time, and we've worked for we've done this with what was interesting from a business standpoint as we were growing our business was we would sometimes just pitch Crisis Track to companies, just go out and market it for 3
Great
months.
foot in the door. Great foot in the
Exactly.
door.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
So we would get in a door, somebody had a great PR firm there, but they weren't doing this. And so they brought us in as this specialist, and every now and then we'd get a little more business out of it. So it was also a business. It was also a business strategy as well as just being the right thing to do.
Oh, I love it. So here's my question. That's why the reason I had some time is, how did you use this in 2020, 2021? That had to be unbelievable. I mean, 350,000 businesses going under, restaurants, everything just going under from the COVID thing. Like, was this something you were able to get in, help some companies manage and deal with this kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing is my retirement started in July of 2019. It was an 18-month glide path to the end of 2020. Well, guess what? Most of my glide path was in the pandemic. So I was
wasn't
still
really gliding.
Yeah. So I still had a foot in the door at Barclay helping them with clients, but I was also had my own consulting clients, and I picked up 2 clients that were strictly COVID related in early, like in February or March of 2020. And one of the things I did with both of them was to walk them through this and make sure that they had, and both of them did have pretty much the building blocks in place of what Crisis Track is, which we can talk about later. But they had a team. They kind of knew what could go wrong, and of course everything then was focused on. But so we did utilize that, and then at Barclay there were a couple of clients that had not utilized Crisis Track that they were, I was kind of tangentially involved with them, but by then everybody in the PR firm knew how to do crisis track. I mean, it was like something we taught everybody early on when they first started. This is one of our core products, and you need to know how to explain it and do it. So they had a couple that they took through that year because they really hadn't put a communications process in place. And yeah, it was and one of the clients I had in during COVID was a staffing agency, a health staffing agency. So you can imagine what their business became in that period of time. They sent over 5,000 medical personnel to New York City during COVID. And so that was one of my clients, just my consulting. So it's just me, myself, and I running things, which is really perfect for me now. I don't need to, managing me is enough. And, but I would be on the phone I was on the phone with producer with the BBC because everybody wanted to do interviews with these medical personnel who were in the front lines. It was a fascinating time and I don't want people to take that wrong, but it was, just interesting.
Right.
Because there are so many stories going on and there's so much. And so from a PR perspective, we're out there telling people stories and people wanted to hear them and people needed to hear what was actually happening because some people I don't think were taking it serious enough early on. So.
Yeah, it was a fascinating time. I remember it well. I was a consultant with a very large company at the time, and it was, started out okay, kind of, and then we're essential, and then it got weird. And then,
it did. It's weird to even think about it now. It's so weird to think about that whole period of time.
Yeah, I just hope the lesson was learned that it doesn't. The crisis is always there. I heard Andy Andrews, if you're familiar with who he is, he was speaking. He wrote The Traveler's Gift and a few others. But Notice are really awesome books. But what a speaker! If you ever get the opportunity to hear him live, go.
Okay.
Just for the experience, he's a master. Okay. But he said this. He goes, life is made up of three things. He goes, you're heading into a crisis, you're in a crisis, or you're coming out of a crisis. He goes, that's what life is. And I'm like, you're right. That is what you're at, one of those stages, right? You're always in one of those stages. So I just thought that was apropos.
I'll give him credit, but I may have to steal that. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true.
I use it all the time.
It's so true.
It is. And it's this crisis management thing that I think is really fascinating because in business, I mean, I've had clients in business, I'm a business coach, and it's in the beginning, it's every day is a crisis. And I'm like, it's really not. But, you get this crisis mindset sometimes too, where everything elevates the blood pressure. You know what I mean? Because they just don't know how to handle things or communicate how to handle things, right? So your expertise is communicating. I'm gonna let you explain. I'm hearing like your expertise is communicating the crisis. At the same time, you're handling the crisis, or you strictly let's get the messaging out there. Is that your focus? Is the messaging regarding it, or is there internal work going on as well?
Yeah, the messaging is the last part, actually, the steps. So what we did with Crisis Track was, first of all, we all agreed we wanted to do something simple because we all had the head of PR, this client of ours. We both had experiences where we'd seen crisis plans that were like 3 notebooks up on the shelf that nobody ever opened up. And so we went in with the mindset of, we just need to get this down to the essential steps that need to be taken so that it's easy, because the last thing, and you just alluded to it, the last thing you need during a crisis is chaos and confusion. And so here's the steps. Who's your team? Now, depending on the size of your organization, it will dictate the number. I don't like to have more than 8 people on the crisis team. They should represent the most critical functions of your company. So now you've got this team built, okay? Then we take that team and we get them in a room. And we always told them, we don't need a day. We need 6 hours with you. Give us 6 hours on one day, and we will create a crisis communications process for you that you will then be able to use time and again. Second step. So then we get everybody in the room, and I loved putting the big post-it notes up around the room. And we bring everybody in, and their homework assignment coming in was one thing. Come in with all the things you think can go wrong in the company. What are the risks facing your company? And Richard, the amazing thing, and it happened every single time. So let's say you and I are on that team, and you're going to come in with your list. I'm going to come in with my list. Some of those are going to overlap. We will have some of the same things, but inevitably, everybody had stuff that nobody else had ever thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And over about 60 to 90 minutes, and we were very patient with this process because we wanted to. Sometimes there'd be a little bit of discussion about a particular risk, which was good. We wanted to get this team used to talking about crisis, used to working together. So we let this part of the process take, if it took 90 minutes, it took 90 minutes. But then around the wall are literally 100 things that can go wrong. And at that point, you got everybody's attention, because now everybody's going, okay, never thought of those 10. Next step is we say, okay, what's the most recent incident you had where you had to deal with something bad that happened? And sometimes I don't use the word crisis, because sometimes you kind of alluded to it a minute ago when you said everything's a crisis with a budding entrepreneur, and there are levels, there are things that, but if someone in their mind says, this is a problem, I got to deal with it, then it's a potential crisis. But we say, take that recent incident and let's walk through the steps you took from the moment it first started, who heard about it first and what did they do. And then we just walk through the process as much as they can remember. And it was always, it was enough. Everybody remembered enough steps that we could paint this map out, okay. And then it ended, and here's how it ended. And boom, I said, great. So we set that aside and say, now let's map out what we want to do going forward. Because in that first part of the process, we found 3 people were doing the same thing at the same time. Nobody was doing this at the right time. And so then we could build a process that says step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, so now we have that. Then the final step is, and we don't do this in this session, but we do 3 or 4. We go back to our list of risks and we ask the team, or we work with the team to create 3 to 5 key messages for each risk. Because what we drive home with them is, especially today in this climate we're in, you and I are sitting here talking on we would 30 years ago, if you and I had been told we'd be sitting here doing this, we go, well, maybe, I guess, but that sounds kind of Star Trek-y to us. But here we are in 2 different places talking live, and you've got to have messages right from the get-go. And so one of the first mistakes we always see with clients who didn't have a plan is they didn't know what to say right out of the chute. And we'd say, okay, let's sit down. So then you got to take 30, 45 minutes to create a message. Well, that's 45 minutes that's now lost. So we do that team, we do 3 or 4, then we all go back and we create messages for the rest of the risks. And in 2 to 3 weeks, we would deliver back to them this report. And so now you've got your team, you understand what can go wrong, you know what steps you're going to take, and you know what you're going to say. That's the 4 essential steps of crisis communications management. The 5th step is, who's going to be the primary spokesperson? Let's identify that person now, and they have to want to do it. You can't just put somebody out there because you think they'll do a good job. They have to, yeah, I'm ready, I can do this. And then you train them, media train them, and get them ready. So that's Crisis Track in a nutshell. And so what I'm offering out there now on crisistrack.com is 9 videos that explain what this process is, so that small business people can do this for on their own. And then if they want to reach out to me, they can as well.
I love it. I love it. I really do think it's something that's it's not really considered in smaller business. When you're talking 5 to 10 employees, 15, 20 employees, 30 employees, I don't think any of that, like people say, well, I got 5 employees. I mean, you still have a message. You still have a crisis happening. I think more on the internal. So like, I get the actually you're bigger and you got media, or you're going to get on Zoom, or you're going to make a post on Facebook or whatever. But when I look at it, it's like, really, how are you communicating to your people first? So if I have 15 employees, I have 20 employees, we have a construction company, and this, like, well, I got 3 people on my crisis team, right, who actually know what's going on. Maybe it's just C-suite or whatever, if I have that. Well, like, you have to talk to them first. The rest of the world may not give a rip about our crisis, right? It doesn't affect anyone. It only affects our company, but to those 15 people, it's their job. Okay, they may have it today, they may not, right? This kind of stuff has to happen. So like you said, like, you wouldn't probably want me in the room where you got to come up with the things that could happen. I'm an incredible overthinker. We'd never be done. I'd be just coming up with the next thing. I just go, and then when that happens, this happens, So yeah, you'd have to shut me up, put me
I don't
outside for a little
know.
while, like
I
the
don't know.
dog.
I think I'd like you in that room because
Yeah,
sometimes
I
you
can.
had to pull stuff out of people, So
Yeah, I go deep. I can go deep. As a
awesome.
yeah. So, but it's important to. I love that. I just love the aspect that you're like focused on this and make it a specialty because it's easy. And I know you have PR firm and this is an aspect of it, but now you get to focus on it solely. Like, and I believe you said in your intro, you started working with nonprofits as well, right?
That's
Like,
correct. We were because of our work in cause marketing and
right.
purpose more. We ended up working for nonprofits as well as doing work with them.
So
They hired us.
yeah. So how is this? I think it's two-parter. How's this when you bring this aspect up, the Christ? So how is it received? And then is it as easy rolling it out in a nonprofit as it is in a for-profit, or is it like herding cats, or what is that like? And I always say that, Mike, and if you're working with them, some nonprofits are beautifully run.
Absolutely.
Other ones,
Yep.
it's a hot mess. Because I try
Yep.
to remind them, nonprofit is just a tax status. It
Right.
needs to run like a business.
Right.
So I wonder what your experience is that way. Is it easier
No,
or more difficult?
it's there are companies that acted the same way too about
Well, I'm
crisis.
sure.
But with nonprofits, yeah, I think nonprofits were an interesting uh, group to work with because on the one hand, um, they needed you and they usually appreciated what you did for them as much, if not more, than most corporations did. Corporation, it's a business where you need to have a PR firm. We got to do this stuff. What have you done for me lately? Let's keep
Right.
coming up with ideas. Nonprofits, theirs was more about, are we enough people don't know about us? How do you help us get our word out? And then back to the crisis stuff. We would always talk to every nonprofit about crisis communications, and sometimes we take them through the process. Sometimes they didn't want to do that or pay for that, but we had it in the back of our minds that we would do that. And because to us, Richard, it was the most important PR we did, because all the other investment, and especially for a nonprofit, all the other investment they might be making in positive PR, in media relations, and eventually influencer relations, and online, what they're doing on their social platforms, all that positive stuff goes down the drain if they have a crisis they don't handle well. And now you've just wasted your investment. You've lost your investment because now you're in a hole. And what I always would talk to clients about is, imagine every time you're making a positive investment in your brand, you are creating a savings account of credibility and towards your reputation. And the more you're doing to be a good organization, to act right, walk the walk, not just talk the talk, you're building up that savings account. Now, when something bad happens, that's good, because you're going to have to use some of that. You're going to have to use some of that goodwill with your key audiences, starting internally. And I'm glad you're focused on internal. A couple times you've mentioned that, because that is the place you've got to start. Everybody inside that organization needs to know that we're going to solve this crisis, guys. We're going to figure our way out of this, because we have this plan in place, and here's what we're doing. And so when you go home at night and your neighbor asks you across the fence, hey, what's going on? What's going on? They have something to say. So with nonprofits, I felt like they actually appreciated that aspect of it almost more, because they understood that a company can, overcome things financially sometimes, but a nonprofit, if they get hit real hard with a crisis, their donor base might not come back, if they don't handle it well.
Yeah, I think they're far more relationship oriented. I mean, I always tell all business relationship, but nonprofit that's it, right? It's connections, it's networking, it's donations, it's relationships, things like that. So totally get that. Now, this was a nonprofit, but I'm gonna give an example of a large company that I think did not handle the COVID thing well.
All
and
right.
They have initials for their business. They go YMCA. You're familiar with the YMCA?
I've
Okay,
heard those
so
initials.
I'm a member. I was there this morning, so I'm still a member. Whole family's a member. Okay, but when COVID hit, they closed their doors. Didn't say a peep. Still
Mm.
charging you for 3 months. Okay. And then they open up and you can come back and do this and whatever and wear your thing and do your whatever. And I'm like, so I paid 3 months and like now here's a simple solution, Mike. Okay. Yeah, we
Hmm.
totally understand, it was out of our control. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add 3 months to the end of your membership. Okay. So you've got your membership,
Perfect
whatever.
solution.
It's like we'll put that at the end. You'll get that additional 3 months. Everyone's good. They already got the money. 80% of people don't show up anyways to work out. So
Right.
it's not like it's this big loss. I'm like, but then that's one sentence. They didn't. Okay. They didn't
Yeah.
answer the phones. They didn't do anything. It was like they closed the doors like they were out of business for 3 months.
Wow.
So terribly that was mishandled in a big way, in my view.
Oh, 100%. And you're right. Your solution would have been all they had to do was that, and everybody would have felt good about it. Okay, great.
That's right.
Thank you. But the fact they didn't say anything at the beginning also is bad. I mean, that they didn't even say, hey, we're shutting our doors. We're going to assess this after every 30 days and see where we are. And we'll keep you posted. And in the meantime, yes, we'll still take your money.
Yeah.
But here's what we're going to do on the other side. For every month we're closed, you'll get a month on that'd be perfect.
Yeah. So there's a client. There's a client for you to chase for the next crisis.
I will reach out.
I'll get you in. But I just love this because there's my real world example. I lived through something like that. And you saw in the lot. You saw the guys who really suffered. To me, I think the biggest loss was restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
absolutely.
Because of the nature of the business alone, you can't be closed for 30 or 45 days. You're done.
No.
And it's multi-generational restaurants, went out and stuff, but there was no way to message. It was like, it was really difficult that whole time. I guess you could have probably three binders full of, studies on that whole way everything was handled with the whole thing. But I'm always looking at the business and how to handle that kind of stuff, because there's going to be something else going to happen. Maybe not on that level, but maybe worse, maybe not as bad. But I think of that as well. Like I remember when 2020 hit early, this stuff starting to go down February, March. I was with a client. I'm like, listen, we need to push forward. And they're like, I don't think it's the right. I go, no, this is the time. We need to help businesses. Like right now they need us. We need to ramp this up. But they pulled back. I'm like, no, this is so wrong.
You're so right. Yeah.
I'm like, I just was like, so much market share we could get. We could help save these businesses. Just like what you're doing. This crisis management you're saving businesses. You truly are.
Your comment about restaurants is interesting because what I've also noticed in the last year, and this is in Kansas City, at least, I'm sure it's happening in other markets as well. But in the last year, there've been a lot of restaurant closings, and I still think that industry is suffering from the COVID hangover because I think a lot of them hung in there, and the smart ones started figuring out how we could do drive-by pickups,
mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to watch the ones that got way out in front of that concept and stayed alive. Others took their time to figure out how to do it. But I think it's still happening in that industry. And I don't think it's not the climate today. It's just like we hung in there, but we were always, profitability was just right on the edge all the time. And now we just can't do it anymore.
I was thinking when this is happening, this is my business mind. Okay. It's my time seeing this and you got the restaurant thing and I go, now is the time. Every McDonald's, every Burger King, always get rid of the dining rooms. Close. They've already got double drive-throughs. Like, just never come back. No one will ever miss it. I'm like, just do that. You know how much money they'd save? No one cleaning, no one working. You got, the new buildings are half the size. You just got double drive, like Checkers and all these other places used to be. Just a drive-through, man, get your stuff. I'm like, do that now. But I get it. McDonald's is a real estate company, really. They're not really,
absolutely.
I mean, they're fast and cheap when the food comes, so I don't eat there. But I'm just saying. But I looked at that like there's a quick solution, like to take care of, what's coming. As soon as you got past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5, and this thing was like you had to make some decisions. You know what I mean? I mean, these are
Yeah.
massive franchises. I get it. But even if you got 400, 200, man, you can adapt to that kind of stuff. You know, that there's a coffee place called Scooters.
Scooters. Yeah.
It's
Familiar with them.
it's horrendous coffee. And it belongs to only have a drive through. Okay.
That's all they do.
But,
Yeah.
but right. So they kind of really blew up during that time too, because it's a drive through, they could do it. And I'll stick with coffee now. Starbucks, they went the other way. Oh, that place during was, you talk about not handling it.
Right.
Kind of close the things, leave the drive through, close everything. Then it's open certain hours. And then you go in and no one's taking the trash out. I mean, in the lobby part. It's the
Yeah.
places I'm like, wow, like who works here? You know, so the whole thing. So I like stopped going. I didn't go there for years. I still barely go.
Yeah.
Then they had like employee walkouts and on that, and they had
Right.
to like, they were losing business like crazy because they used to be the third place. I'm Eric Wotan, right? Work,
Right.
home.
That's what
Starbucks.
they wanted. Exactly.
Right. And you look at that and I'm like, man, now they've remodeled, done things. We've got more opening and it's a completely different store now because they've realized we really messed up. Like, and I'll stay down this little path. So we have one, like you get in the drive through, it's 20 minutes to get a coffee.
Oh, I know.
20 minutes.
Oh, it's amazing.
I'm like,
people want to drive through and not go in anymore.
right.
You know?
But
I
I'm
always
like
go
20,
in. If I go to a coffee shop, I'm going in. But
me too.
you know.
But I'm like 20 minutes. I'm like 21 minutes and I'm still not at the window. I'm like, no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like stopped going, but something happened. And this is just, so now I go there like on Sunday and I grab an Americano before church. Okay. So that's like, I go there and I'm like, whether there's one car in front of me or like yesterday, there was about 9 cars in front of me. But I've noticed lately, I'm like, they are so fast. Now I know they changed some of their drink options, stuff like that. But I'm like,
Yeah,
so I
they
come up
streamlined a little bit.
to the one, I went, what did you guys do? I used to just sit in this line. She goes, well, we did a few things and we got them better trained. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about like, I can order my Americano at the speaker. Then I drive up to the window and you like hand it to me.
Right.
Okay. That has never happened. Okay. I'm like, she goes, well, I go, well, all I'm saying is keep up the good work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because man, I might come back again. So, and it was been like that time. And so they've done something, I don't know, but they really had to recover from lack of crisis management. I really think they didn't come in your room and get 100 things on the wall. I don't think they did that.
They had a couple missteps and you pointed out a couple of them and you know, they became the one of the first targets, like you saw about employee walkouts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Amazon got hit with some of that too. And it's like all of a sudden, you know, people are realizing, and I think it's part of a new generation coming up and saying, you know, we don't need to work here if you're not going to take care of us, you know, or
right.
do things right. And you know, so it's interesting to kind of watch these newer companies kind of face what the established companies in America for 100 years faced with, you know, the fact that, hey, I love to work here, but you got to make it it's a two-way street of I'm going to give you my 100%, but I need something in return other than just a paycheck. So
yeah, there's 5 generations working together right now.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Okay, so like try to figure that communication out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I need to know why. I need to just do it. I need to just, you know, I mean, the whole thing is, and I do this stuff, right? I go to manufacturing companies, I do this frontline leadership, and it's really fascinating, you know, from a communication standpoint alone, right? Like it's been so overlooked, like, and now manufacturing's coming back, right? We're bringing all this manufacturing back. These guys are not ready to handle it. I'm like, I'm talking about, you're not ready to scale because your frontline guys can't lead.
Right.
They literally couldn't lead you to lunch. Okay. I mean,
well,
it's
and what we learned over the years, and it's why I'm passionate about this, is that you know, crisis management gets put on the back burner consistently. You know, if we buy a house, we have to have insurance. If we buy a car, we have to have insurance. Now, other insurance is voluntary. We decide what we want to do. But there's 2 things. Well, if you own a business, you have to have certain insurance. And what I'm telling you is Crisis Track is insurance.
Right.
because it means that the moment something bad happens, you know what you're going to do and you know what you're going to say. And too many times people just, well, we'll do that later. We'll do that later. We don't need to go through crisis trial. I was just, in fact, I just was involved with a company that we were all ready to pull the trigger on doing crisis track. And they, it was kind of the beginning of the year and there was a lot of kind of turmoil in the economy and they just pulled back because that's one of the things they pulled back. Well, we don't need to invest in that now. It's like, okay, well,
and something happens 2 months later.
You'll be calling us, and unfortunately, we're going to have to come in and try to scramble, and that's what it is. It's a scramble. Even if they would bring us in to help them with it, it's a scramble.
And the price won't be the same.
Price is never the same.
You're going to be in crisis. You're going to pay crisis prices. Okay, so it's
never the same.
I totally get it. It's like I tell people often about insurance. Guys, we all complain about it. It's a necessary evil, everything else. I try to put it in a positive term. I say, what is it? And this will include crisis training. It's transfer of risk.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. You're transferring your risk. You're giving it to that guy. We're going to give it to you, Mike. You come in, and once you get us all dialed in, we've now transferred the risk of being decimated by a crisis because we have a plan. We have everything in place. We know what to do. We can manage it, right? That's transfer of risk. That's how you have to think about this kind of stuff, I think.
That's so true. And when with the PR firm, when they would hire us to do crisis check, if they went through the process with us, then the two other things that we would ask them to do is we would like the crisis team to meet quarterly. Sometimes they'd say, how about twice a year? And we'd say, fine, but just so you're meeting, we'd settled for once a year, but we try, and some people would do it quarterly. And here's what they do at that meeting. The crisis team gets back together and says, okay, did we have any crises in the last 3 months? How do we handle them? What did we learn? Do we need to tweak our process? Was our messaging not quite right? And we can tweak it. Second item on the agenda, are there new risks that have occurred? And for example, after 9/11, there were suddenly a lot of new things that nobody ever thought about. Anthrax being sent through the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And we were actually working on crisis track with a client at the time 9/11 happened. And they experienced that because they were in the business of sending out stuff and they had a scare. But they were prepared because we'd seen it happen someplace else and we started talking to them about it. And so, and those two, and then the third item on the agenda is just to once a year, perhaps do a tabletop drill. So where we would come in and create a scenario and we'd spend like 2.5 hours doing it. We'd create a scenario, we'd script it out and just put the team through its paces. Crisis starts, 15 minutes later, we insert a new wrinkle. 20 minutes later, we insert a new wrinkle. How do they handle it? We had people back at our place poised as reporters to call into the head of PR, all that stuff. But that's what, if we could get companies to do that, Richard, they were now making crisis management a part of their ongoing operations. Mm-hmm. And that really, for us, was the objective. The ultimate objective was to help them understand that once they put this in place and they meet regularly and talk about it, it's now just like your marketing meeting. It's like your legal meeting. It's like your HR meeting. Now you have a crisis meeting and it's part of your ongoing operations. And the ones that did it right, Richard, it was so gratifying because the companies that really took it seriously and work with them. And then the other thing we would do is if a company hired us to do crisis track, the first 24 hours of the crisis, we were there on our dime. We didn't charge them because the first 24 hours is where you kind of put everything in place. So we would go in and say, you got us for 24 hours. And then we'll see what you need to do beyond that, what you need from us. And then we can, create some type of compensation based on that. But for us, the first 24 hours, because a lot of times crises don't last a long time. I mean, we think of ones that go on and on and on, but a lot of times it's like it happens, you deal with it, and 2 or 3 days later, we're kind of, okay, we're on the other side. We took a hit. Let's go back and review why we took a hit and what do we need to do to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And the final item on the crisis, and I just remembered it, and I knew there was a third item, was on the agenda of the crisis team is, do we have any policies or rules or actions we're doing that if we stopped doing them or started doing something, would it prevent a crisis from ever happening? And that's then what we called real crisis management, because now you have this organization thinking about, hey, if we change the way we do this, we'll lessen the chance of this happening.
Right.
And so now we've got them thinking about, and that's what I mean by the ongoing operations. Now your crisis thinking is offense, not defense.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I said, I'd be like, well, what threats are coming down the pike? Can we see anything? Is there any
Right.
what's going on in the world that could affect our business? Like, to me, that is, I would always think that way. I wasn't like, hey, let's get crisis management. I would just say, okay, well, what could happen to the business? What could a war here do to us? What if this sector went out, what would happen to us?
Mm-hmm.
Even down to power outages,
Mm-hmm.
long-term stuff like that. Like, what are we doing for there? I mean, there's all, like I said, I can overthink it, but you can really get
Those
into
are all
this
good
stuff.
things.
But all businesses need to be strategically thinking, which means forward thinking. You're looking a few moves down the road. And I think this falls in that category really, really well. Like, that should be part of, especially an owner, CEO, anyone that high level, this has to be part of what we call their 5%. Some of the things only they can do. Right.
Right.
So, but it needs to be in their wheelhouse. Like, okay, even if it's bringing the team together to talk about it.
Right.
Like, and then
right.
And I'm with you on, when I'm thinking about crisis management, that quarterly thing, I'm probably a little more on like you. I would have it every quarter.
Yes.
Once or twice a year, like once a year getting CPR certified.
Right.
I think you're going to remember 11 months from now how to,
right.
when you haven't,
right.
it's not like you
that's,
do it ever.
That's why we insisted on quarterly, if they would do it. And we had a person from our team at that meeting as well. So we were represented. We were part of we became part of their team. If they went through crisis, if they hired us to do crisis track, we're with you 100%. You're going to get the first 24 hours of us on our dime. And we've got somebody planted on your crisis team that's there, accessible all the time. And if they wanted me to come in and do something, I would do that too. So
that's actually pretty huge. Yeah. That's a pretty big deal. That's a commitment on your part as a company. You know what I mean? I think that's right. Really impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's the most important PR we did for them, because if we succeeded there, everything else is going to be not a piece of cake. Nothing's a piece of cake, and not every positive PR thing works. But you got a better chance of having things work than not, because if you go through a crisis and you handle it well, and you think of the Tylenol crisis back in the 90s, and people may not know much about it, but and there may be some things that weren't done right, but the one thing they did, which was remarkable when you think about it, is they took every bottle of Tylenol off the shelf across America.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is a huge business decision.
Yeah.
They basically said, until we figure this out, every drugstore, every grocery store, every 7-Eleven and Quick Trip, boom, pull it off your shelves. And then once they figured out what had happened, they were able to go back in, and they came through that stronger. And that's, so who's willing to do that? I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. But, I remember that. I remember all that happened, and to have the forethought, not just to pull everything off the shelf, but the reasoning why. Okay. So it's like, it seems like, get everything off the shelf so no one else dies or whatever. Okay. Like, okay. But again, we're back to strategic thinking. What does that actually do to your customer base? Okay. Do you lose your customers forever? Or when you get everything figured out and you put it back, does that strengthen your bond, your trust with your customers? I don't know if anyone was thinking to that level. Again, I'm an overthinker, but were they thinking like, this will be a good thing if we take it all off? Or was it just, I wasn't there, right? I'm not running this stuff, but what are they just trying to save their bacon? This is the only thing we know to do. Just get it all off right now.
Probably both, but but the fact that they did it is still to me remarkable, because and so you have to think that somewhere someone was thinking that we got to save our bacon. We can't afford to have somebody else die. The Jack in the Box example from the same period of time in the state of Washington is another one. And unfortunately, some people died from an E. coli breakout at Jack in the Box. and they became the poster child for crisis. But what they did, and they still are around today, what they did was they got rid of key leadership that had bungled the crisis, and perhaps had, and they put in place at the time stronger regulations on food care than even the federal government was asking them to do.
Right.
And they had new management come in, and they explained that to everybody. Here's what we're doing now. We're doing more than the government's even asking us to do or telling us to do. We're doing this, this, and this. And they came through stronger again. So, and again, both cases, people died. So it's a serious situation. But had those two companies not done what they did, maybe more people would have too. And so that to me, there's two examples, again, a long time ago of companies that handle it well.
Yeah, it's like you said in the beginning too, you get that one teenager, they've had it, right? There's, a cop comes to the drive-thru and they do something nasty to their food and they give it to them, and that gets in the news. And even if it's only local,
right.
You know what I mean? Like that might be local news, but you got 12 Jack in the Boxes, that all get affected from that one goof in there, so.
Well, and that's the other thing that's interesting during crises is, if you're in the fast food business, and I'm CEO at a fast food company that's in, all 50 states. I'm not the biggest, I'm maybe the fifth largest or whatever, but McDonald's has a crisis. Well, guess what? That should became a crisis for us too, because we're in the same industry. We're in the exact same industry. Well, and people will naturally think, well, if it can happen there, maybe it could happen that they're the best. They're supposedly the biggest and the best. It could happen to, so it's almost like in times of crisis, you cannot and should not gloat about someone else's misfortune in your category, because it's happening to you too. And there's going to be people, your customers, also thinking, maybe we'll cook at home tonight.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's not a business. I spent a little time in the food industry, once I got out of the Marine Corps and stuff, I'm like, I don't know how people do it.
It's tough business.
You know what I mean? I cook a lot, Mike. I love to cook. I'm real kind of high end.
I do too.
All this stuff, which is great. But I also tell people, but I only cook for people I like. I'm not having some stranger talk smack about my food. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not, there's not enough money in the world for that. Okay?
You come back here. You come back here and do it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I'll see you. I'll see your tacos and raise you 2 steaks. I don't know. But really that you bring up a great point. It's just that whole industry. I mean, you could spend some days in that room on crisis management and things that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Again, bar business, all this kind of stuff. I've been part of it. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff.
Well, another case history happened more recently. I think about 10 years ago. My time space continuum is not real good, but it's at least 10 years ago. I was still running the PR firm, and we had a couple of clients who got hit with a crisis because of what one of their vendors did. Mm-hmm. So this company is now out of business very quickly after that. I don't know if I should say the name or not, but they manufactured a food product that everyone used in a million ways. So we had a client who was a major ice cream manufacturer, and they used it. We had a couple of clients who were in the restaurant business, and they used products from this vendor. So it's used in a variety of ways. So this crisis, because they had some of the worst hygiene that you could their food handling was horrible in their manufacturing plants. And finally somebody got onto it because somebody got sick somewhere, and they traced it back to this vendor, this manufacturer of the raw product. And over 300 brands were impacted because those 300 brands were customers of this company. So now they had to all take action. So as this crisis rolled out nationally and started getting national news attention, we had to help our clients get through to convince their customers that we're doing the right thing. Yeah, we're no longer using products from this kind. So you talk about a cascading crisis caused by, again, one central company that impacted hundreds and hundreds of brands, all having to go through a crisis process because of them. and that company is
Right.
now out of business,
Yeah.
and they deserve to be.
Man, if you look at our podcast here, where we started and I love this. I just, again, because I'm that guy, right? But really, we got into that one affects hundreds,
Right.
right? Understand that. That's why no one is immune to crisis. It's going to affect you all in different ways, but no one's really immune from it. Something and everything's going to happen. There's just, I've
Well, on
been in
social
business.
media, they think about what's happening. Just think of, there's
Yeah.
some crises happening online that have taken on lives of their own, and it has nothing, it has nothing to do, but it's so fast. Information just gets out there so fast, and people have fun with it, and then people start not understanding. Wait a minute, did that really happen, or is this just fake? Is this,
Mhm.
nobody understands what the original story was because it's been convoluted, or people think they're being funny, but somebody takes it seriously.
Well,
I've got a couple of things I read online that one guy's a great satirist, and I have shared it with some people who I was
oops.
afraid to understand that they thought it really happened, and it's like
Right.
satire. So
Well, it's
I mark it satire now if I send it to anybody. So
right. It reminds me of Mark Twain. A lie can get around the world before the truth can get its boots on. Right?
so
Can you
true.
imagine Mark Twain today seeing social media? He's
Oh,
like, it'd be around the world 9 times. Before
yeah,
it's
but
just.
I'd love to hear his podcast. Would he have a
Oh,
great podcast or
wouldn't that
what?
be awesome? Oh my gosh, that'd be one of mine that I'd never miss. But that would
Exactly.
be awesome. But it's just super fascinating, this whole crisis management topic. And I got to tell you, like, until like you approach me, okay, I like see, like, I'm reading the one sheet and I'm looking on, this might really be good, talking about this stuff, kind of your background, because sometimes you don't know, just a little inside podcasting.
Totally understand.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you're like, going to do this, and obviously we record these and then publish them and stuff. But this has been just awesome.
Well,
I
thank
just,
you. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it too.
I mean, I don't know if maybe again because my overthink, I'm the only one who can take crisis management from a little thing and take it almost an hour. Okay,
It's a
talk about
it's
it.
a
So
big thing. It's a
it
big
is a
thing.
big thing. Again, you don't know it till you know it, right? And then you don't think about these things. And I'm hoping, and I know this will affect any of these businesses that listen, because my primary audience is business owners, and I think this has been delivered in a way where they can put it, tangible action to it,
Right.
which is what I love, whatever that might be. And hopefully it's getting with you, a man who has a plan, has a system to put this in place. It'll save you a ton of time. And I don't know why I'm going to say this, but like we often talk about why you hire a coach or get an expert or anything else, because it'll save you, Mr. 5% only of the business that you can do. Well, you probably can't do crisis management very well. So you want to reach out to an expert who does, okay, because
Yeah.
at least get started there to put this thing together. It'll save you a ton of time, more anguish than you can imagine, and frustration. So, again, that's why one of these reasons I love podcasting, because I can bring people like you and so many others to the arena where business owners can hear things they haven't maybe had the bandwidth to think about. But all of a sudden they see the vital importance of this and how you're going to get affected by something, or they already have, and maybe they dealt with it poorly. And this has just been great. I just love it. So
Oh,
how do
oh,
how do they get in touch with you? What do you got for us? So give them a place
okay.
to go or whatever.
Sure. Well, the two things. One is go to LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile. I think it's just Mike Swenson 1 to be specific, but if you put Mike Swenson in, you'll see me. I have a ton of content on there, crisis related content, just tips and some case studies. But there's stuff on there that people just go through on their own and see that. And I'm putting up new stuff, every week. And then Crisis Track is at crisistrack.com. It's crisis, TRAK, crisistrack.com. And right now, they can have, it's 9 videos, all of them about 15 to 20 minutes, that walks through very efficiently, but how to create, the details around the plan that I described to you in a couple of minutes, how to do it yourself. Here's what you need to do. And a lot of it's towards the end is kind of some repeat, just so people understand it. And we normally, we priced that out at like $2,000, just under $2,000. Right now, though, if people come on for a period of time, we're going to do it for $997. And so it's basically 9 videos. So it's $100 a video if you look at it that way. But it's the plan. It's a crisis plan. I'm not trying to make $1 billion off this. I want to get this out there. I want to get it out there because I believe in it. I believe if organizations take it seriously, they'll be better off.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we all know, you said they're what, 9-10 minutes, 9 to 15 minutes,
15 to 20 minutes. Some of them are, 10 to 20. Longest one is like 20 minutes, I think.
So guys, just think about, there's 9 of those. Okay. And they're well-produced videos, I assume, right? There's a lot of time.
So.
Well, there's a lot of time and effort in this because people, again, I'm kind of a value guy. You have to attach value to certain things. Like you understand, like you just don't, instead with the iPhone doing a selfie video, talking about crisis management, right? No. These are produced videos, man. This is high level stuff that's going to take you through the entire process. Okay, that you can implement it. This isn't just brief knowledge. So I just like to make that clarification, Mike. I want people to understand.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I should have made that point.
That's right.
And when you publish this podcast, I'll put this right up on my LinkedIn profile as well. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, Mike, this has been fantastic. Any parting words for the audience?
One of my mantras has always been there's any communication without a strategy is a lost opportunity. Any communication without a strategy is a lost opportunity, and especially in a crisis. I mean, you can't just say stuff. There's got to be stuff behind it. And if you have this crisis track process in place, all your communications are going to be strategic because they're going to be based on what your actions you're taking to solve the crisis and make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's strategic as opposed to just getting out there and saying a bunch of stuff. So
I love it.
That's the words I would leave you with.
I love it. Communication is huge. It's so important. I mean, it's one of the pillars in all business is communication. And most people do it wrong. So with that being said, Mike, thank you again for your time today. This has been great. And everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Sharpen the Spear podcast. If today's episode helped you think sharper, act smarter, or see new profit potential, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow home service owner and leave a quick review. Ready to find the profit hiding in your business? Head to sharpenthespearcoaching.com and book your free profit discovery call today. And until next time, keep sharpening.